Hello everyone, my name is James and this is Real Biased Gaming. Elite Dangerous is a game from British developer Frontier. I'm going to be completely honest, I had never heard of them or the Elite series before, but apparently these guys have been making games since '94 and they made the Roller Coaster Tycoon games. Man, I was already happy about supporting this game, but when I found that out, I was double happy. I mean, really, the first Roller Coaster Tycoon was the only true great in the series, but I suppose that's another story. The point is that these guys are not new, and they made a game that in a lot of ways feels like it was crowdfunded, and it was, but also has just enough of an expert touch to make it memorable and surprising. First off, I want to be very clear about something. This game gets away with having very, very little game-generated content. There's literally nothing you have to do. There's no main story, and though there are quests, there really aren't any quest lines for you to follow. It's a different kind of game that actually manages to be entertaining and engaging without having any semblance of an on-rails story or pretending to offer constant big explosions and plot twists just to keep you interested. Now, I'm going to explain how this game works, assuming you have never played games like Free Space, Freelancer, or even my favorite, Tachyon the Fringe. I mean, you should have played those games, obviously, but this game does deserve its own full rundown, though it does come in those other games' wake, certainly. So Elite Dangerous is a unique take on an MMO. You play in first person, and you only exist inside a cockpit, but you fly around a seriously big galaxy, more on that later, playing as an explorer, a hired gun, a trader, a miner, or any kind of combination of those, as they're really more activities than like traditional MMO classes. Now, as you complete missions or trades or sell your exploring knowledge, you gain money, which allows you to buy new ships and customize those ships with extra utility or power in whatever activity you fancy doing. Now, the quote-unquote end game is more of the same, but with bigger ships, more payoff. And of course, you can do it with the gaming community at large. You can do that from the very beginning, though, of course. Now, you can be destroyed by other real players and attack those weaker or less skilled than yourself, as everyone exists in the same big world, though you are also given the option of playing in a single-player version of the galaxy where only NPC ships appear. Now, the game prides itself on a robust economy and faction system with a significant amount of action happening under the hood, so to speak, as player actions like bounty hunting or resource trading or even fighting enemy factions actually does affect the spheres of influence and the representation of those factions within different systems. Okay, was that succinct enough? Now let's get into more detail. Instead of talking about characteristics of the game like in normal reviews by going over like graphics and storyline and sound editing and whatever, I'm simply going to go into the details of the game from the perspective of each of the main playstyles: hired gun, trading and mining, and exploring. First, let's talk about trading and mining. The game has a randomly generated and yet very robust simulated economy. You don't buy or sell from other players, you buy and sell from the factions in the game. Factions control varying areas of space that have space stations of some kind. These can be huge and support a diverse economy, or they can be small and have simple demands on their market. Trade routes and trade data from different systems allow players to know where to buy low and sell high while traveling across the galaxy. Sometimes it is as simple as picking up a bunch of cheap goods and just hoping to run into a good spot to make a profit during your game session. But the most profitable method is to really study individual demands of different systems in order to run a single route multiple times and make some big money. Trading right now is definitely the most lucrative of the activities in the game. Mining, however, gives a payoff in a different way. Every ship has cargo capacity, and every ship can pick up objects floating in space. Sometimes that means picking up a canister dropped by some other ship, but sometimes that means blasting off a piece of rock from an asteroid, picking it up, having your onboard refinery turn that rock into valuable resources, and then flying off to deliver the cargo to the space station and faction of your choosing. The benefits to mining include financial payouts, of course, but you can also use those resources to further interesting community goals, like building a new space station in a nearby sector, or just beefing up resources and helping out the defense of a weaker faction that you're trying to build up. And also, dropping out of Super Cruise into an asteroid belt often offers up some of the most breathtaking visuals the game has to offer. To some, that may not be much of a payoff, but for someone like me, it's basically half the reason I play this game. This brings me right into exploration. Ships can be equipped with scanners. Some can detect the cargo of another ship, while others are used to scan celestial objects and systems in order to gain information, which you can sell, and to find points of interest within that system. Now, those points of interest are usually asteroid deposits of some nature, and that's where you go to mine or sometimes hunt down bounties. Not all the time. Scanning planets and suns offers very little immediate reward, but once you reach a minimum of 20 light years distance from those planets you scanned, usually, if you go as fast as you can, usually it's a travel time about 5 to 10 minutes, then you'll find space stations are willing to pay you money for your scan data. Now, one of the big touted features of this game is the fact that it exists in a procedurally generated version of our own galaxy, the Milky Way. There are literally billions of planets that you can visit within the game. That's right, billions. Billions. This, of course, means that an entire player base isn't going to discover every inch of the galaxy anytime soon, which means that players that just want to explore can actually be the first to discover new planets in our galaxy. These firsts are forever recorded in the game, and anyone that comes to a newly discovered system later will see the name of its discoverer. Do you get cooler gear? No. Do you level up? No. It is a different kind of reward system for an MMO, no doubt. Moving on finally to the hired gun playstyle. As a hired gun, you can smuggle illegal cargo, become a pirate and shoot down other ships for their cargo, take on bounty hunting missions, engage in faction-to-faction combat, or just play PvP and shoot down other people's ships in dogfights. That's a lot you could do, and it really is up to you when and for how long you do it. Smuggled cargo can get you in trouble with the law, so you have to know which space stations have a black market that you can sell your goods on. Bounty hunting can put you up against very difficult opponents, so you better have a powerful fighting ship before you chase them down. Piracy can be fun, but can easily lead to some serious repercussions from the law, and you can even get a bounty placed on your head for other players to claim in the game. Overall, space combat is absolutely excellent in this game, no matter what your target is. It looks cool, it sounds okay for a space game, I've heard better, but mostly what I find in this game is that it feels great. Now, I actually use a joystick, and I would highly recommend you use one as well, as the joystick allows you to feel connected with your ship in a way that a mouse and keyboard setup just cannot do, and believe me, you're going to be spending a lot of time in that ship. I bought the joystick so I could play TIE Fighter when that game came out in December, but I've already spent more time on Elite Dangerous than on TIE Fighter, and I'm just happy I had an excuse to get a joystick in my house so I could use it on this game. It's so satisfying to play with. One last major aspect of the game needs to be addressed here before I close out, and that is the ships themselves. Currently, there are 15 ships, with plans to have about 30 total that players can purchase. The first few are easy enough to get a hold of, but some of the bigger ones require some work. The first ship you buy will run you about 40,000 credits without any upgrades. The later ships cost millions. Upgrades can often cost you as much, if not more, than the ship itself. Although the game really has no system in place to teach you how it works, the outfitting system in Elite Dangerous is one of the few really robust features. There are multiple ranking systems for efficiency and power of ship systems that you can use, and each one has unique power and weight requirements, so that sometimes in order to upgrade shields or weapons, you have to upgrade your onboard power plant as well. If you take the time to understand the system and work out great setups for your ships, you can have a ton of fun customizing your personal fleet in order to have a ship for every situation, including just cruising around the system looking really sharp. In conclusion, Elite Dangerous is truly 1,000 miles wide and an inch deep. Apart from a few deeper aspects of the game, like the ship customization or the economy and trade routes, there's always something new to see and do, but not many opportunities to build on what you've already accomplished. This is a game where, in order to really enjoy it, you have to be able to set some of your own goals and be willing to engage in the game forum community. Also, you need to be okay with driving for some periods of time. This game is certainly not action-packed, and sometimes, in order to get a payout of either fun or credits, you will have to grind something out for an hour or two. If you love beautiful vistas of space, very satisfying spaceship combat and flying. You want more freedom than your average sandbox game, and you can handle a game that promises to neither constantly occupy you or hold your hand, then Elite Dangerous is probably for you. Please feel free to comment with questions or your own comments on the game. I'd love to hear some different perspectives, and I'd also love it if you'd give me a shout out if you played games like Free Space or Tachyon the Fringe, things like that. I'd love to hear about that, games I spent hours and hours playing back in the 90s and 2000s. Thank you for watching. That's all I got. Once again, my name is James, and this is Real Biased Gaming.